The Last Stop Cafe. The rain battered the windows like a relentless drumbeat, each drop a reminder of the storm's fury. Thunder growled overhead, and jagged lightning illuminated the desolate highway. Nestled in this tempest stood the Last Stop Cafe, its neon sign flickering like a dying ember. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with unease. David, a weary traveler, sat at the counter, hunched over a lukewarm cup of coffee. His eyes, shadowed with fatigue, darted to the only other patron, a woman cloaked in a long, tattered coat, her face hidden by the dim light. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and something metallic. Breaking the silence, David offered a strained smile. "Hell of a night, isn't it?" The woman slowly lifted her head, revealing eyes that seemed hollow, void of life. Her lips parted, but no sound emerged. Instead, a chilling draft swept through the cafe, causing the lights to flicker. Behind the counter, the waiter emerged, a gaunt figure with skin stretched taut over his bones, his sunken eyes fixed on David. "The storm has a way of trapping souls here," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. David frowned. "Trapping souls? What do you mean?" The waiter leaned in, the faint scent of decay emanating from him. "Once you enter the last stop, leaving becomes difficult." David chuckled nervously. "What? Is this some kind of ghost story?" The woman spoke this time, her voice a whisper full of sorrow. "I stopped here, years ago, waiting for the storm to pass." Her voice quivered. "But the storm never ends." David's stomach twisted. He glanced at the windows, only to realize something was terribly wrong. There was no storm outside, no rain, no wind, just blackness. A void so deep, so absolute, it made his head spin. He shot up from his seat, knocking over his coffee. His breath came fast and shallow. "What the hell is going on?" The waiter sighed, shaking his head. "You shouldn't have stopped here." David bolted toward the door, his heartbeat hammering in his ears. He yanked it open, but there was no road, no world outside, only emptiness stretching into infinity. Then he heard something. From the void came a sound, distant at first, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming closer. A shuffling, dragging sound, like something that had been walking for a very, very long time. David staggered back, his mind screaming for him to run, but his body frozen. The woman suddenly gripped his arm, her fingers like ice. Her hollow eyes now gleamed with a sickly, otherworldly glow. "It's coming," she whispered. "It comes for all of us." A new sound joined the footsteps, a wet, guttural breathing, and then a hand, pale, bony, and impossibly long, reached through the doorway. It latched onto the edge of the doorframe, its fingers bending unnaturally. Long, blackened nails scraped against the wood. David tried to scream, but no sound came out. The waiter calmly placed a hand on his shoulder, his grip firm as iron. "You belong here now," he said softly. And before David could move, the thing in the darkness grabbed him. Cold, skeletal fingers wrapped around his wrist, pulling, dragging him toward the endless abyss. The last thing he saw was the woman watching him with sadness, before she simply faded into nothingness. Then the door slammed shut. The cafe fell silent once more. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, the waiter turned back to the counter, wiping it down as if nothing had happened. And a fresh cup of coffee sat at the table, waiting for its next guest.